Last we left off, we ventured into deep Britannia, mythic Britannia. And in doing so, I gained access to being able to travel into the Alfheim portal, which is pretty cool in its own right, giving us access to an entirely different dimension. And with this, it granted us access to a dimension that is entirely filled with witches, and also illusioners. And all of this is kind of perfect for today's episode because we are going to need to dive a little bit into Reliquary. And the reason we need to get into Reliquary, well, we're going to be diving a little bit into Draconic evolution today. And because we're getting into Draconic, well, we're going to need something special. More Nether stars. And with the power of Reliquary, we have the ability to duplicate Nether stars. And that's done with the Tome of Alkahestry. But this is not an easy task to gather all of these items. One of them that's rather difficult to get without a standard mob farm is going to be witch hats. And so I need to go through and try my best to be able to obtain these. Now there is a tool that could help us farm these drops even easier. However, it's going to require a lot of Enderman kills. And there is one place that, well, spawn a lot of Enderman. That's right. The End. Now to gain access to the End, we will have to take on a boss, a guardian, Helvar the Underworld Knight, where it says the tales are told of a lone ancient knight that guards the passage to Ginnungagap. It says I can summon him in Midgard by offering 4 soul-infused dust and a shadow steel as the catalyst. And all of this couldn't be better timing because the one thing I was actually missing to be able to make Mjolnir was access to the End. Now it does mention that I need Shadow Steel, which is actually a part of the quest line over here, and we just have to take Dark Steel and drop it into the Weeping Well, and that is going to give us access to Shadow Steel. Now if we remember correctly, we can gain access to this Weeping Well in Niflheim, and this should lead me exactly to the well because this is where I had it bound to originally. So now this should teleport us and we'll be right in front of this awesome well. And you can see that this is telling me if I drop it in here, it should give me something in return. This really creepy place. And we get Shadow Steel. And I think this is a really cool way of actually farming these create resources, which, by the way, a little bit of background on this, Shadow Steel normally required you to toss in a very specific type chromatic compound into the void. And in doing that, you would get Shadow Steel. In Refined Radiance, you would drop chromatic compound into a beacon beam and you would get the Refined Radiance. And this is so weird watching it being crafted in reverse. So yeah, but in this big open field, I think it's now time to summon the boss. The pre-boss, I guess I should say. And I'm hoping that we could take this guy on quite quickly with our new Alf Blade. Oh, that's sick. Do we deal any damage? Not at first. Okay, interesting. Whoa! Oh my goodness, this thing is so cool looking. Okay, I am managing to avoid most of the things, which is good. All right, is he stuck? Okay, we can't hit him. There's got to be a phase at which we do hit him, though. I just wonder at what point do I get to attack it? Oh, there we go. Oh, I see the parry points. Okay, so it's blue on top of its head, right? There's a little blue flame, but there's a little red or orange flame that pops up every now and then right there. And if I hit that, aha, I see. There it is, there it is, there it is. Perfect. And defeated. I think it's trying to flash an animation. Oh.
Souls, become my flames once more. That only still remaining thing can cleanse your rot.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I was not expecting a phase 2. That is so cool. Okay, yes. Yes. All right, I'm gonna get back. Woo! Ooh, the dodging is so good. But I'm doing a pretty good job at dodging. Nice. And now. No, it must have a sliver of health. We'll hit it once more. There we go. Oh, it's so sad. It said thank you. Oh no. What does this do? Right click throws a powerful slash. Interesting. Okay, that was a pretty cool battle. On completing this though, we get even more Midgard points. This is very nice, but now we have reached access to the end. And it proceeds to say, I will need to pay a visit to Ginnungagap's guardian at some point, but I'll need significantly better gear for that. For now, however, I will need to avoid facing the guardian. And I would assume when it says guardian, it's meaning, well, draconic's guardian, I think. Or maybe it's actually meaning the Ender Dragon itself. Either way, we can now take the Bifrost back, and we should be able to now travel into a new dimension. So we should be looking for the Rune of Pride as its indicator, and it may be all the way down at the very end, but it did tell me that I should be able to get here this way. Aha. Right through here. I'm very interested to see what it looks like when we actually spawn in. We've made it to the end. Yes, okay, perfect. Just have to make sure to re-equip my Rendingale, and we should be able to fly about. This is the end. There is the dragon. She is doing mighty fine. The Enderman, though, is what I really need to take out in this dimension, because I'm looking for a very specific drop from them. Also, while I'm here, I could grab up some Dragon's Breath, and also can collect the Ender Air Bottles. So after several kills, I ended up getting one, but my goal is to get at least 2 for now, so I can make a special weapon that gives me access to more of these. Now, while I'm working on this, I wonder like how easy it would be to potentially take out the dragon. Ooh, maybe not that easy at all, because those arrows aren't working. That worked. Okay. I somehow got struck by lightning, though. And then the dragon is also striking me. That kind of hurts. And there's phantoms everywhere. What is even happening? Could I maybe use lightning ball? That was not lightning ball. Okay, that didn't seem to do it. That worked. Oh yeah. I can just use my lightning ball, which is kind of nice. And so with the last one down, yeah, the dragon I don't think is going to be all that difficult for us to take down, right? Can just land down here, spam it with this a few times. Yeah. Not even that difficult. Maybe even hit it with this. Oh my goodness, this just stops it in place. It's not taking a whole lot of damage from it, but I'm just holding it in place. Also, by the way, I am currently unable to fly while in this middle area, which is very cool. I currently have the dragon stun locked trying to perch, and it just can't perch. And it is not happy about this. I tell you that. It's causing TNT explosions and all kinds of stuff. But this, I think, is the end of the dragon as we know it. And down the dragon goes. Oh my. Yep. It had to be done. I had to do this. In doing so, by the way, I also got the dragon's heart. Now for the difficult question, how do I get the dragon egg off of here without it dropping into the portal? You know what? I think the old school trick of just using a piston is going to be the best way to do it, making sure my magnet is currently on, and then there we go. Since we have access to extractors, we can easily make more of these. Perfect. And after doing all of that, I now have the 2 hearts that I'm going to need. Well, I technically need 1 more of these to be able to make the book. Perfect. After gathering all of those things, we've now beaten Minecraft. Well, That took us a while. Oh, and that's cool. It technically brings us back to the Bifrost. With these hearts, I can make myself a Magicbane. And the Magicbane, it does grant a higher base chance of getting the reliquary drops. But what makes the Magicbane powerful is the fact that the more enchants we put on it, the more damage it will deal. But for me, its primary use is just going to be getting those drops. To get a ton of enchants on it, I'm essentially just enchanting a gold sword, which has a really high enchantability. And then I'm taking this over here, dropping an anvil on it with some books to strip the enchants off using SFM's mechanic, and then placing the books in here so that way I can apply them later. So what I should be able to do is combine a bunch of enchants onto this, and then combine this onto here, and yeah, pretty darn cheap. And we've gone up a little bit. Now we deal 14 attack damage with this thing compared to its minuscule amount that it default has, which is 5. So now getting a witch's hat should be a little bit easier with this weapon. Or so you would hope. And yeah, it only took 3 witches to be able to get the hat. Now, most of the things out of this list I technically already have. Like, for example, slime pearls. Slime pearls are not too difficult to get, as you can find slime islands located here and slime spawn quite frequently. You've got to think Tinker's Construct for that one. So the big ones I need to get is the catalyzing gland, and then we also need the spiders. I don't even know how to pronounce this, but this one is dropped by spiders, and the Eye of the Storm is dropped by charged creepers, which I think we might be able to get access to because we do have the charge spell, which I can just shoot onto a creeper, or we can even just summon a creeper that's charged. I think to be able to get, yeah, we're getting quite a few of these things like quite quickly. So I've already got the spider one. But I think for the charged creeper, what I'm going to do is probably just summon it. I think we'll have a better chance there. Let's back to the summoning altar, where I technically only want one item at a time going in. And yeah, summoning this, like if I get it on the first draw, that would be fantastic. But it's not a guaranteed drop. So it's something I have to keep in mind. But this should spawn the creeper, and we should be able to one-shot the creeper with this sword. I mean, this is dealing quite a bit of damage, plus my bonuses. That should be quite easy. And look at that. We did get the Eye of the Storm on the first. And this is everything needed to make the Tome of Alkahestry, which is such a powerful thing to get a hold of. And if I can say anything, a pack with EMC and having this thing is amazing, because now we have a way to farm Nether stars. All of our powers combined. Let's make the Tome of Alkahestry. Yes. And by default, it may not seem like much. It's just a book in my hand, but it has some really cool abilities. When combined, we can craft and duplicate certain things based off of a value. It's kind of like an EMC system in its own right. However, if we feed it redstone, we can generate quite a bit of things. Well, technically redstone or glowstone, both of those can power this book. That's how you give it charge. So to do this, I'll grab some redstone blocks, which we can do, and we can shift right click with this, and it will consume them from our inventory. Another way you can also feed this is not by actually having it shift to consume. You can just craft with it. And this is a way that we can automate it. So if we craft it with redstone, the redstone value continues to build up. And then with something like a diamond or a nether star, we can take one and consume a little bit of that redstone charge. And in doing so, we can basically duplicate items. And here is the list, by the way, of all things that can be duplicated. And there is quite a list, but the big one being nether stars. I'm currently fresh out of nether stars, so I'll just go ahead and spawn in a wither, and I'll go ahead and take this bad boy out. It's not like it's going to be all that difficult to do, since we've really gained a whole lot since fighting it last. So yes, a couple of swings with our Alf sword, and this guy is gone. Not bad at all. Now that I have a nether star, we can start automating the nether star production. And to do this, I really just want a tier 3 crafter or even a tier 1 crafter from RF Tools utility. And what we need to do here is essentially we're going to want to create our first recipe that is going to keep the book here in the main inventory. And so we want to make sure that the output destination is set to the internal inventory here. And the thing we need to do to drag this in is basically say, hey, fill this up and then combine this with redstone. And then you need to rinse and repeat this over and over again. And the actual MBT data on the item should not matter in this case. So I just need to hit apply, and now we have this recipe here. So if we put the book in, and then we also put redstone in here, we should notice that it just charges up. Then for us to be able to duplicate nether stars, we'll create a separate recipe, and this time we'll have it be exit C, which should keep the book inside, but send the nether stars out. And so we'll take the book, and then we'll put a nether star in here, and then hit apply. Now we have a different type of recipe that can all happen simultaneously, by the way. And so if I put this in here with the nether star, hopefully it will just produce more nether stars, as you can see. So in this case, we would just simply want to loop the nether stars and make sure we're always sending a nether star back into the system. So let's fully automate this. So for this process, I do want to use the ability to pull out a stack a second, which is currently our maximum. And so we can use redstone blocks inside of our EMC link here. And then I'll use item translocators to send to this. So let's grab some redstone blocks real quick, and we'll set up some filters. So redstone blocks just like this, and then we'll use these nether stars real quick, and we'll set this into onto activate mode, so that way we can set our filters for our items. I only want to keep this amount in at any given moment, so we can use cobblestone to filter out the rest of these sections. So I'm just going to drag this in here and then hit remember. And then by hitting this remember button, we've essentially blocked all of these slots, which is pretty cool. So now what I can do is I can turn this on for one, and you can see that this is doing the thing and it's also duplicating them. And then we can use item translocators to then send that redstone into here to constantly keep this filled. And item translocators are a way that we can send items from one block position to another one that is within the block vicinity of like a 3x3 around it. So it does need to be adjacent like so in order to do this. And then I don't know if this is going to 100% work, but I would love to use something like a puller upgrade that's pulling from the down position on a functional storage drawer to pull in the nether stars, and then we can use a pusher to push down into here to create a loop. If this is going to function, this is what I was worried about. Will the pusher upgrade push this down into here? In which it doesn't seem to want to do this. So instead, I have another plan. We can set up laser IO, which is another piping mechanic that is in the pack, which is pretty cool. In order to use this, first of all, you need the laser IO node, which is going to be able to transfer things between any side that it's connected to. Or if you have multiple, you are going to need a laser wrench to wrench them together. In our case, we really don't need more than just 2 regular item cards, which is going to allow us to tell the laser IO what to do. And we just need to pull items and then send items. But we get to dabble a little bit into the channel system. This is what makes laser IO incredibly powerful. So when we open this up, we can see the 2 inventories connected, and we put item cards inside of here to tell things where to go. So first of all, we have our barrel up top. This is going to be where I want to take an item card, and by default, these are set to insert, and we want to set this to extract. And these channels, by the way, that you see right here, this is a redstone channel. Don't really worry about that for now, but the regular channel is something we do want to worry about. Right now it's on channel 0 or the white channel, and it's extracting, which is looking for an insert channel that is also on the white. So it's looking for another one there. So if I take this and I go to the up, this is now going to extract things out, and then it's going to send them down. Oh, and by the way, yes, this is something that Shaders is doing. Normally it's default to red, and you can actually change and make these completely invisible. But unfortunately with shaders, I am not able to do that. It does not like shaders. But now if we give it that destination, which is going to be connected to the crafter, if we give it that default channel 0 insert location, well, it's going to take anything that is inside of the inventory above, and it's going to send it into here. So let's go ahead and give it that destination. We put that in there. And this, you can see now, is actually taking the items one at a time and storing them in. We don't need this to be very fast, but as you can see, this is going in. Now we need to take the nether stars out and send them back into the barrel. So I'll do another set of cards. However, this one is going to be extract on the channel 1. And then this one right here, I'm just going to change to channel 1 too. So that way we have 2 orange channels, and these are going to be like separate pipes in a single block space. That is really what this is doing. And so our extract is going to pull from here, and then this is going to be looking for an insert on that channel, which should take the items and basically loop them around. You can see this looping over and over again. And then I can set this to fast mode, and then this will craft this over and over again until this this buffer fills up, I believe, or until this buffer fills up. And that loop should stop and start to fill this barrel. Now, some other interesting things that we can do with the laser AO, by the way, is we can increase our throughput rate. Now, by default, you do have to put node overclockers to be able to do operations simultaneously. Otherwise, it's going to take turns doing the operations. So I put node overclockers to be able to run these simultaneously. But on our export here, to be able to pull items out, I technically want to make these faster. So this is a per card basis on the extract cards. So we put these in. This allows us to set our ticks per second to 1, allowing this to pull every tick, which will make this card incredibly quick. So we want to make sure we put this here, and by doing this, it's going to make sure to pull these out much faster, and these are still going to flow in pretty slow. We don't actually need this to go crazy fast. But with that, we now have ourselves Nether stars, which is going to be perfect because we need this for our draconic evolution. To gain access for our auto crafting system, well, all we need to do now is make a storage controller. I'm going to place that connected into my line, and then we're going to hook up a storage bus to this. And we want to make sure we want to make sure to prioritize this a little bit higher than our default drives or any other drive system. So we set that a little bit higher than whatever we have this set to. So this is set to 10. So we definitely want to pull from drawers first and insert into drawers first. So we'll set this to 11. Then we can use something like a linking tool and shift right click onto here to select our barrel. But notice, well, the range of this isn't too big by default. That's where something like upgrades will come in handy. So I can shift right click to access this, put a diamond upgrade in here, and now the range should be a little bit bigger, but we still need to go a little bit further, so maybe adding another one in here will work. Or we can completely wipe this and just simply use a netherite upgrade. Yeah, I think that range is pretty good, maybe a couple of those. With 4 netherite upgrades in here, I mean, it basically encompasses most of this base. And then with our configuration tool, I can lock this and then select it. And now we should see nether stars inside of our system. Also, I think if we wanted to make this even faster, I believe we can click either redstone or glowstone on it. I think it was redstone to make it redstone controllable and glowstone to make it go even faster, if I remember correctly. Yeah, which allows it to transfer stacks at a time, which at the moment, by the way, is being limited by the level 7's transfer rate. So now let's have some fun. Let's actually dabble a little bit into draconic evolution. For this, I am going to need another room, and because we now have wireless applied energistics, technically we can pull components by linking this directly to our A system, allowing us to just pull directly from the system, which is quite nice, allowing me to technically paste this in and paste a new room in, just like so. The room setup, I'm also crafting up a gargantuan storage. This is going to be for Flex Networks, and it should be able to store like 200 something million, I do believe. Sorry, 128 million FE that it can actually store. And this is going to be really nice to just sort of have because this is our current power generation, and I'm probably going to want to set up more power generation down the line. But this for right now will at least have a place to store said power, and you can see all of it generating here. And you know what, because I knew I was going to need more power, I went ahead and added another section over here and also over here running the same thing, overdrive, and these are producing 4,800 each, and so times 3, we're looking at like 14,400 RF per tick that we're generating in total. And also we now have this storage buffer. The reason this is important is because Draconic is very power hungry. Now, a lot of things from Draconic do seem like they have EMC, but if we're going to start fusion crafting, we are going to need the fusion core first and foremost. And so that seems like everything required. Perfect. And let's see, anything else? We just need to request the diamonds, and we now have a fusion crafting core. Now, under the fusion crafting core section, it does mention this. Dragons are known for being exceedingly smart creatures, especially those who can shapeshift. I should start setting up the fusion crafting core and surrounding it with draconium fusion crafter ejectors. facing towards the core. Now the amount needed isn't really specified, but I usually like to set up a very specific amount. And the amount usually involves what it would take to make the chaotic core, which does involve about 12 of them. Now thankfully the base crafters, well, these right here, they have EMC values. The setup for this isn't too difficult. We just need the core to go in the center, and then alongside the walls or what have you, so long as it's in line with this, up to a 3x3, I believe, we can place in our ejectors, which I do want, or injectors, which I want these to be lined sort of like so, just like this. I think we can do 6 per side if we're going to have 12, and then I'm leaving room in the back so that way we can place in something that can charge it. I believe on the back we can use flux ducts, because if I remember correctly, in this version, these are unlimited. So they have the ability to send as much power as you give them out and in. And to give this power, flux points just connected to the top, and I'm also going to set bypass limit on here. Now we get to the part of upgrading to the Wyvern tier. And thankfully we get given a few of them, but this is why I needed to automate Nether stars and why this tome was so powerful. Now we have the ability to auto craft Wyvern cores because of our Nether star production. With the power and all of the ingredients ready to go, this is where we can actually use JEI to craft this. So by opening that interface, we now get a move items button, which will automatically pull all of the ingredients in and allow us to craft our first one, and which it is going to charge as pulling the power in, and then it has an actual crafting mechanic. So getting the initial charge in, yes, it is going to take quite a bit of power, and these injectors make it really slow at doing that. These are the biggest limiting factors. Then we get into the crafting part. However, the crafting part can be accelerated with the Watch of Flowing Time if we really wanted to. This is just, it's still one of my favorite looking crafting animations, but it is pretty slow. It takes quite a long time. But now we have ourselves the Wyvern Fusion Injector, which is one of the ingredients that is required here. And now that I've gotten a few back, I know how many I'm going to need to actually craft. And right back here, I can place in a watch. And like I said, this is going to help quite a bit with how fast the regular crafting mechanic works. It's not going to really help too much with anything else. I don't think it helps with the power transfer or anything like that. But yes, we can go ahead, select this, hit craft. We're going to notice the charge rate not too much faster, but when we see that craft, that's where things really start to happen. And it's just about ready to craft, and you can see the crafting now happens instantaneously. So I've got all of them changed up, but here's a really cool trick and tip when using Draconic Evolution and the Injector. Because of this new ability for us to be able to actually send items in, what we can do is we can just simply request individual packages, and we can just cancel our craft with AE whenever we're done and we get the items in. So something that you can do, you go in and let's just say, for example, one of the things I want to craft, I can build a pattern. For example, this is something I really want. This is an advanced dislocator. So inside of the pattern crafter, I can just request all of the items needed for this. And then that is going to then just send the items into this barrel. And this is going to be very, very helpful for me. Now, I do need to make a recipe for dislocators so it knows how to actually craft those things. But yes, the advanced dislocator is something that I want. So I'll go ahead and request the items. It's going to put all of the curated items for that inside here. Then I just need to go down here and craft the dislocator. So click the button, hit craft. And then after it's finished crafting, I can put it back into my system to complete the craft. Or I can just go up here to the top and just cancel the fact that the crafting operation started in the first place. And look at this. We now have an advanced dislocator. And this is a very nice way of just simply crafting those single-use things that you don't have to automate. By the way, this item that I just crafted, incredibly powerful. We just need some ender pearls, which do have EMC in this pack. And what we can do is open this up by shift right-clicking, and we now have the ability to store locations anywhere. So let's go ahead and consume all that I have. And let's go back up top here. And this has keybinds and stuff too, by the way. It has a curio slot and everything. So I want to be able to teleport back here. And so we can call this Midgard, for example. So we'll select our destination by, I believe, just right-clicking. No, we have to add new destination, which is going to give this coordinates. But we can edit this destination. And as you can see, I'm teleporting to it right now. Shift right-click. we go in here and we can change the entire name. So I'll say like Midgard, and then we'll call it home. And now this destination is forever stored inside of here. And you can see on the right-hand side, it does say Midgard home. And so it's just going to consume an ender pearl whenever I teleport to it. And it works cross-dimensionally, which means that we can now get from anywhere we want, save a location anywhere we want, and we'll now have access to those destinations always in here. And if we don't want to interact with the GUI, we can shift right-click and just simply right-click on here, and that also will teleport us to any of the locations in the list. For spending a little bit of time, I've now got all of my major locations set in place, or at least as of now, with the well being here and all that fun stuff. And I believe I can even move and shift these around. For example, Midgard, we can put all the way down here, and we can have these be in kind of the order that we went to them, and keep some of these other ones as a separate sort of listing. But now getting from place to place is as easy as me just simply right-clicking and waiting for the join world to happen, and we are already back at the location. This isn't the only reason for us needing to get this up and running. No, instead, what we're going to need to do is make awakened supremium block. So this is going to require supremium essence, but also ancient dust, which we need to get working. For this, we'll need a crystallizer and also a magma crucible, in which we need to send glowstone to have the magma crucible break down and then send into the crystallizer. So in the crystallizer, we'll place this in, we'll go into the configuration, set this to auto extract, and then just have it set to the extraction, which is going to be orange. Over here, we'll have this allow insertion, and then it just let it do its thing. It's going to convert into the materials we're going to be needing. Now let's talk about mystical agriculture, because this is where things are very interesting. We don't have to really grind out too much for mystical agriculture. We already have essence, inferium essence base, which has an EMC value. The only manual thing I probably need to do is go down and to mine a very specific ore. And that very specific ore, by the way, is this prosperity ore right here. So I do want to grab a bit of it and go ahead and break it. Honestly, finding yourself a mine is going to be one of the best ways to locate a bunch of it. Now, thankfully, we don't need a whole lot of prosperity shards. We just need enough to be able to make the different crystals of different tiers, which means we need 4 for the actual shard and I believe 4 for the gemstone. So for each of these infusion crystals, we're going to need 8 prosperity. But here is a nice little thing. We don't have to keep making a bunch of these, because as soon as we have enough to make a block of this material, well, then we have the ability to EMC the block of raw material, which is kind of interesting. So we have this, and we can bring this out now and then craft the next tier. And we use the prerequisite block here, so it actually saves us even more of the prosperity shards. And then we just rinse and repeat. We do the exact same thing, getting up to the next tier block, in which tritium has EMC, then on to Imperium, and then finally into Supremium, which also has the EMC in block form. So alongside our Supremium, we also want air, water, fire, and also earth essence, in which now we should be able to also produce, and we should be able to make the seed for which this is possible. To make the seeds, we need an infusion altar, in which I can place this directly in a redstone block, because the redstone block is what activates the actual crafting. And with that, we'll also use some more prosperity to make these base seeds. Finally, I'll just place 4 of the different materials for each required, and also the essence of that tier, and then finally, the seed. And then this is going to get them all crafted up. But honestly, the seed crafting, that's the boring part, because we need to figure out a way to grow this. Let's figure that out. With all 4 of these seeds, I have some little spots over here where I can actually grow these. And right here we have mystical fertilizer, which we do have the ability to craft, and also has an EMC value. With this, I can just simply right-click and grow these crops as many as I need. I don't know if we need to fully automate them, but if I was to fully automate them, technically, I think AE would be one of the best ways and easiest ways to get them growing quickly, where we could, well, use some of AE's built-in growth mechanics by using the growth accelerator, for example. The only other thing we needed for this is the ancient dust, in which we can put all in here, and now we can just craft one of these out. I don't even think we need to automate this process. We literally just need to set it up and say, hey, these are all of the ingredients that are required. Supremium, for example, do that method that I mentioned before, where we place the ingredients up here, and then we need to request out, well, the Supremium awakened block. So Supremium awakened block, we'll send a request for it. There's all of the ingredients, and then we do the unthinkable. We craft it. All of this is going to be crafted up. I think it's going to require a little bit more power than everything else. I mean, it seems about the same, give or take, compared to everything else we've crafted up. But this just opens the door for all kinds of stuff. And there we go. Now we have access to all of the Wyvern tier stuff from Draconic. We also now have the Awakened, which is one of the required items, the Awakened Supremium Essence, in order to summon the twins. So I'll take this and add it to the items needed. And thus the Awakened Supremium section has been finished. With the help of the Draconic Fusion technology, I'm able to combine items on an atomic level, creating an entirely new variant infused with this Draconic energy. Once all items and energy are placed in, a simple redstone pulse will begin the craft. Which is kind of a neat little tidbit that they recommended that, because technically, if you weren't doing this the way I'm doing this by clicking the button, you can actually send the items in, and then when this receives a redstone pulse, then it will actually start crafting. And then you actually hopper the resulting product out of here. Which I do have many videos covering the full automation process of Draconic Evolution. Some things just work better than others. There's a lot of things also that don't really work super well with applied energistics. For example, the crafting of draconic capacitors and things like that. These just have some special data that AE2 just doesn't like. Overall, today was quite fascinating. Not only did we craft an incredible book, by the way, that allows us to duplicate nether stars, but we also took down the dragon and started Draconic Evolution after visiting the end, giving us access to a tool that allows us to teleport anywhere we set. After that, we're only left with a few other things. For example, to be able to make refined radiance and get chromatic compound, which is going to require us to dabble a little bit with some create mechanics, which is something that we'll just have to work on next episode. And I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hopefully you learned something new, and if you did, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video a huge thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And now, without further ado, it's time for me to thank the amazing supporter that even made this episode possible in the first place. And that huge thanks is going to go out to The Smoke. Thank you so much for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting my content in one of the best ways possible. And guys, I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode. And as always, thanks for watching.